Hi everyone, I'm Katie. In my bookish little corner of the internet, I'm known as the Dragon Queen. I have a pretty unhealthy obsession with dragons, but I mostly post on Bookstagram, Threads, and now Blue Sky. And I also have a Patreon, the Dragon Horde. It's just a little pocket of the internet where I share my master list of over 200 books with dragons. I do book reviews, wrap-ups, Bookstagram templates, the occasional recipe, and I'm currently working on dragon lore and history to come in 2025. I also have a Fable book club specifically for dragons. We read a dragon book every month. It has over 300 members, and every month we vote for a book that in some way contains dragons and read it together. I'm also the co-host of Okay, But Did You Know, a TV and media podcast. We discuss our favorite shows with a friend who's never seen it before. Right now, my friend is having me watch Once Upon a Time. I have not finished season 3 yet. And I'm having her watch Bob's Burgers. She just finished season 6. But we also host our book club. It's called the Pedantic Book Club on our Patreon. With that, you get to nominate a book that has been either adapted to TV and film, or it is a classical retelling. Patrons get not only to, of course, nominate books, they get early access to the episodes, discussion questions, and we do something called a coffee chat once a month over there. And we're going to be adding movies soon, so we're really, really excited. With dragon books, of course, I really want to start off by just telling you guys the dragon books I mostly recommend. Right now, I'm working on a lot of research for just dragon content and dragon history and dragon lore. With that, I feel like reading certain books could really help. Fictional, of course, because there's not enough nonfiction on dragons. They're mythical creatures, in my opinion. So these are just recommendations and just different dragon books that I would recommend that you read, especially if you're going to be following along for any of my own content. So yeah, let's talk about dragon books. October of 2024 for both my book club and our Pedantic book club, which is quarterly, so only to read one book every few months. We finally read The Hobbit. I'm a little bit embarrassed because this is my first time ever finishing The Hobbit, and I've never finished anything by Tolkien before. I feel like a fake fantasy fan for never really finishing these before, but I did annotate mine and went, I would say, a little crazy, but I loved it. I loved it so much. I've started this book so many different times in my life and just never finished them. But this time I did because I was motivated by my book club, by book clubs. And this is the first really good dragon book in my opinion, not historically, because of course dragons were already historically and different things. But this is a really good starting point to get an idea, because this is the father of fantasy right here. So I always recommend, now that I've read it, to read The Hobbit. It's a cozy little fantasy. It's got high risk in it still, but I definitely recommend it. My book club is reading Dragonflight, which is the first book in the Dragon Riders of Pern series, where The Hobbit was the 1930s. This goes more into the 1960s. And so I am annotating this one as well. This is the first 3 books in one that my friend got me, and I love it so much. But I'm annotating this one as well. Just started part 2, and it's a 3-part book, so it's kind of interesting trying to talk about it because it's a lot per part, so it's really hard to kind of discuss within the book club, but we're still reading it. But with this being the mother of all Dragon Rider books, it makes sense to me to make sure that we read this. I'm bad about not actually looking into what a book is about before I read it half the time. I'm like, ooh, dragons, and I pick it up. I need to stop doing that, honestly. And so I didn't know that this was actually sci-fi. It's sci-fi fantasy because they're on a planet and there's planets and all that fun stuff. So I will have a review out on this soon because I have 2 more parts to go. I'm annotating, so it's taking a little bit longer than I would want it to, but life happens. But those 2 are definitely high on my list to make sure that I've read, because I feel like they need to be read. And then ironically, I have a large collection of his books, but I always recommend Aragon. I've met the author. He is honestly really sweet. I get along great with a lot of the fandom. We talk, I have multiple friends that I've met through this, and it's been a wonderful time. The book event I actually went to when he was touring for Fractal Noise, he came near me, and it was really funny. I met up with all these random people, all from Georgia, because that's where I'm from. And we got stuck in line waiting to have all of our books signed because he was signing everything. And yeah, right after that, my husband and I were like, yeah, let's go do an escape room with these 3 strangers we just met at a book event. And we have had a group chat ever since. We're not barking. We're not barking. But no, I do recommend Aragon because it is a really, really good series. Murtagh came out last year and they just had the special edition come out. I'm just petting my dog to calm her down. And it's just a really good series. And I've seen a lot of, hey, why? You're okay. I promise you're okay. We don't need to bark. Okay? Mwah. All right, get down. She's an anxious one. But no, with Paolini, I really, really enjoy his work because he started this series so young because he was like 15 or something. Like he was a teenager when he wrote this, which book 1 is very obvious that he was a teenager when he wrote this. But it's one of those series that I really enjoy. Can you stop? You can really see where he grows with the series. You can see where his writing gets better, how he grows as an author. And then he took years to write his first sci-fi, which was To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. And that is a huge space opera, but it's also really good. There's no dragons in that, but it's just seeing him as like growth as an author. And it's really, really enjoyable to kind of just go through that yourself. But when it comes to dragons, I think he did a really great job about like bonding with dragons, and Saphira, of course, is like the best dragon in my opinion. But these 3 would be like my top tier, like read these. I say Dragon Riders of Pern just because she is the mother of all dragon books, Dragon Rider books, but like I'm realizing you really have to look at it through a lens of their time, because when it comes to Tolkien, there were no women in The Hobbit. And that was kind of aggravating, which is why I understand why they did the movie the way that they did. But you know, you get what you get. I actually just got this. This is the Penguin Book of Dragons. It's got a lot, it's a nonfiction. And I had already downloaded the audiobook on my PRH audio app because I am a influencer for PRH audio. Please keep me. I promise I'm gonna keep doing it. And I was like, this is something I'm gonna wanna annotate because there's some really cool things in here that I'm really excited to read. And this is one of the things that'll help me when it comes to like dragon lore and other things, because the internet has wonderful things, but the internet also has a lot of, oh, this is based off D&D. This is based off George R.R. Martin's books, which I've never read his books. And I know everybody's like, but dragons. I've heard of the content in his books, and yeah, no, I don't know if I can read them. They seem a little dark. But there's stuff like Guardians of the Horde, The Worms of Northern Literature, Books of Monsters, Dragon Lore in Medieval Europe. So there's a lot of really cool things in here that I'm excited to go through and be able to talk about. So this I haven't read yet, but I'm going to be discussing soon. I know this book is really daunting to a lot of people due to its size, but I always recommend The Priory of the Orange Tree. Yes, it is a big book. I've been trying to finish annotating this book since we read it this summer. It was a reread for me, but my book club did pick this and A Day of Fallen Night throughout 2024. And I still have to annotate like the last part in the book, and I haven't. And I've been doing the marker method. I don't know how you can see it. Where I just like highlight the side of the page, which I had to do because tabs in this amount, like the amount of tabs I would need to annotate this book. But I really love Samantha Shannon. She is mother. She does a phenomenal job with high fantasy, and I really enjoy this world. But like she does more dragon-like creatures and really distincts between like dragons and wyverns and like Lund dragons. And I really, really love that, because anything that's got different types of dragons, not just like different colors of dragons, because I see that a lot. Because Dragon Riders of Pern, it's like, oh, this dragon's bronze and green and blue. And then there's other series where it's like, oh, but this green dragon, this blue dragon. Aragon does it as well, but they don't have distinct properties between color of dragon. This one's like quite literally different dragon forms. So really love that. If you treat each part like its own little book and take your time, or even just do the audiobook, which I know is like over 24 hours. I don't know how long it is. It's a really long audiobook. I do recommend this highly. I love this world. And like, there's the discussion, do you read this one or Day of Fallen Night first? I think you could do either way. I read this before A Day of Fallen Night because A Day of Fallen Night wasn't out yet. So that's how I enjoyed it. And then a book that's not fantasy, When Women Were Dragons, is a speculative fiction where it's based in the 1950s, 1960s, and women start just turning into dragons, and it's called The Great Dragoning, and this is about, you know, how that affects everybody, you know, affects women as a whole, what it does when it comes to like the men, and it's just really, really interesting, and it's a great narrative on feminine rage, so I definitely recommend this, and it's not too long. I love when I try to annotate a book, and then I really go in and only do 3 tabs, because it's such a good book, I can't put it down, and I don't really annotate a lot because I'm having too much fun. Another series that I really, really love is the Aurelian Cycle. I read this because of my friend Christina, which every single book rec Christina has given me, I have fucking loved. Every single one. And this series is so freaking good. Because you've got your Dragon Riders. This is a Dragon Rider book, but there's also like a college, I guess kind of like a war college. This is right after these people have gone through like their own revolution, and they've changed up how they do their caste system for the most part, because there is kind of like a caste system, and it's got a lot of political intrigue. There's a really big, there's plenty of discussion on propaganda within this. I actually think this is a really important read for what's going on in life now. But this series is absolutely amazing, and Walmart has a sprayed edge edition right now that of course I had to get. I had to search for a good copy though, because I found like 3 or 4 different copies at different Walmarts, and every single one had like damaged edge. And I'm like, I'm not gonna buy a damaged book. That's not happening. But I did finally find one. But this is also high on my recommendation list. I think my most recommended book is To Shape a Dragon's Breath. This is supposed to be a series. We are supposed to get more of this world. The author is not on social media, so there's no update in that way. We have no news on this, but this is set in a reimagined North America, essentially, where of course America has been colonized, and it's kind of like a steampunk feel to it. Like we're in that industrialization type area, but the indigenous people of this world have been without dragons for a very long time, even though the colonizers have their own dragons, and our main character Anaku like finds a baby dragon, but because the colonizers, you know, deem the indigenous people dangerous, they're like, you have to come to our school to learn how to, you know, be with your dragon and treat your dragon, and to how to shape your dragon's breath, because that's the magic system essentially. And so yeah, Anaku, who has, you know, these indigenous practices and her own culture, is thrust into a very like white centered culture, and it's very, very unlike hers. I love this because there is polyamory and bisexual rep in this, as well as some autism rep, and it's just such a beautiful book. This is one of those books that I literally wanted to throw half the time because the characters piss you off so much. Not the main character, I love Anaku. Side characters that piss you off to no end, that it makes you want to throw the book, but I highly recommend this. It is such an amazing read. I just read this also due to my Dragon Book Club. Like, we've read a lot of books this past year, and these are just like my most recommended books. I have other books I'm going to talk about, but these I just really want to talk about now. But The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. There's not a lot of dragon going on in this. Like, not a lot of dragon, but there is a little bit of dragon. But I myself am Norse pagan, and so finally picking this book up and reading it, like, I devoured it because it just, the world is so interesting, and I'm really loving, because like they have different creatures. It's not just dragons. They have a lot of magical creatures that I really enjoy. But it's a Norse-inspired fantasy novel. It's very much about like motherly rage, because this mother is on the hunt. And just, it's really, really interesting. There's not much I feel like I can say about it, because then I feel like I give away the story. And that's my problem talking about books a lot of the time. I feel like if I say too much, I'll give away the ending or give away the story. And I'm like, just go read it, and I promise you're gonna love it. This is one of my personal favorites that has created some pretty amazing friendships within the book world as well. And that's gonna be Ebony Gate. This is by Julia V and Ken Babel. I love these authors so much. Like, I've actually had many conversations with them, and I'm really grateful to have met them. But this is such an amazing series. The second book is already out. And yeah, So we have Amiko, and she is the Butcher of Beijing. The magic system is very interesting. There are people that are kind of blended in with our own people, but they have magic, very kind of like elemental. But someone pisses off Amiko, and it's literally described as a female John Wick story with dragon magic. So even though there's not a lot of dragons in the first book, the second book has more dragon. Everything is based off dragon magic, and it's violent and it's wonderful, and I love Amiko and her Kit Kats. So I highly, highly, highly recommend. This is such an amazing series. And oh, she has a pet lion. So she has a pet lion. His name is Bao, and he turns like between real and like alive and into fake all the time, so she can take him with her. I love Bao. Bao is my baby, and I have a sticker on my water bottle actually of Bao because they sent out character art, stickers, and bookmarks to a few of us, and just look how pretty. But Bao is baby, and I love Bao so much. Also, this book will make you hungry. So hungry. Those I think are like my favorite dragon books right now that I mostly recommend. You can't see it because of the way I have my camera, but you can see where I've taken books off my shelf. I have an entire shelf that's dedicated to just dragon books, where I also have, you can kind of see them, I have the big Toothless Funko. I have an Alduin Funko from Elder Scrolls. Yeah, I really am obsessed with dragons. My goal for last year, for my 30th birthday, was, well, I say last year, the beginning of the year, was to get a dragon tattoo, but life went a different route with my health, because I am a disabled person. I'm a disabled working mom of 2. I also homeschool, and then I do everything I do in the book world, and I'm really trying to branch out and do more. So if you like, please like, subscribe, follow, join my Patreon. There's a free tier. And with that, thank you to my Patreons, my little wyverns, Ainsley, Becca, and Sammy. And a big thank you to my whimsical worms, Sarah and Jessica. I do this because I love it, but you guys make it so much more fun. So thank you. Please follow